And we are live with another episode of Digital Crypto Answers. And I'm joined with, of course, Rob of Digital Asset News and James of Invest Answers. How are you guys?
Doing great.
I know, Rob, you're off site today.
Yeah, I'm off. I'm in Puerto Rico, just finishing up some loose ends, signing some paperwork, documentation, taking care of these things. And yeah, so that's why I haven't been doing too many videos. But I did make enough time to come into a little DCA because there's a lot of volatility as we expected. So I thought I'd just stop by, talk about it.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we could still do this. There is so much to talk about. Let's just jump right in. Let's talk about this last week. What has happened? James, what's your biggest takeaway from last week?
Oh, well, there's a few things. First of all, well, the three standouts from the week, I think, before we talk about regulation, I think that should be a category unto itself.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, first of all, the Ethereum strength and EIP 1559, how it just completely blasted off from 2,400 straight over above 3,000. And it's pretty clear once it got through 2,500, it's going straight to 3,000, typically just like before. And then the whole crypto market up 20% for the week is pretty impressive. But kind of what really interests me is, and nobody is paying attention to this, and I like to pay attention to stuff that nobody's paying attention to, but the global chess game of crypto that's happening before our very eyes or behind closed doors. You've got the whole, I call it the embrace it or die philosophy. You've got smart countries that are rolling up their sleeves and they're embracing it. And that's everything from a place like Singapore that have become very crypto friendly. They want to manage all the kind of APAC, exchanges and everything else and take all of the fallover of financial services from Hong Kong over to Singapore. And I don't know if you guys know, I used to spend a lot of time in Singapore working, but they have the highest GDP on earth for a reason because they're wicked smart. And then you got this other set of countries that are just fighting it. And, the countries that fight it, they fight it for a reason because the politicians that are in control of those countries are fighting it because their pockets are being lined by financial services, traditional financial services companies. And that, I'm not a political guy, but when I see the corruption and I see the politicians say, we're killing this because it's criminal based and it's corrupt, it's like, no, it's the complete other way around. So that's my big takeaway. But I do like to see the standouts of the companies that are really embracing crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin. And, I look forward to seeing the world's part in the future. And hopefully, the US will get its act together and all this will just be a nothing burger as we go forward. So that was my big takeaway from last week was this, embrace or die and the huge 20% plus move in crypto.
That was not what I expected.
Yeah.
Rob, what are your thoughts?
I was surprised it went up this much because what's amazing to me is I take a look at the news stories, the news cycles, and even FUD or good news, it seemed like it wouldn't really move the market too much. But it didn't matter if it was great news or mildly negative. All of a sudden, we would see, Bitcoin going down to 35, 32, 30. And then, we had that 29, 28 day, which James picked up on. He caught that falling knife. Amazing catch on that one. But so as time went on, and I'm just looking at the stories that are coming out and what's going on, we see the supply shock, we hear about the supply shock, we hear what's going on, and then all of a sudden, we had this nice little big rally, and then all of a sudden we hear about this Portman Wyman bill, whatever it is, for the infrastructure, where they're going all over, and they're really going negatively against cryptocurrency. I'm like, well, this might be it because it's this is negative news and this is going to push it down. Does not seem to matter, and I think that's one of those telltale signs of when you start to get into these bullish factors, these bullish types of markets, these sentiments start to really go the opposite way. It doesn't really matter what happens, and it just kind of keeps going up. But I didn't expect this whatsoever. And I'm glad it's here. I thought we were going to trade sideways for a little bit longer. But hey, I'm glad I'm long. I'm glad I'm wrong on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the two takeaways for me is number one, Ethereum, how well it implemented the London hard fork, and how
Oh, yeah.
prices really stayed and just kept going. Right, there was no sell the or buy the rumor, sell the news. Right, it was buy the rumor and buy the news, which you really don't see much in crypto. But yeah, and to your point, Rob, with all this infrastructure FUD out there, Bitcoin has held really, really well. Oh, not just Bitcoin, all of crypto held really well. And just like it's a nothing burger at this point almost.
Yeah.
But I think to James's point, it's like crypto. I think a lot of us, or at least me, I fall in this trap where we cover so much about what's going on in the U.S. I forget that crypto is sometimes it's not just for U.S. citizens; it's worldwide, right? So what's happening here is not really applied to any other country out there. So I think at least for me, I always have to catch myself sometimes because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I always think like I always kind of feel like as the U.S. goes, so a lot of different countries will also follow. But it's not. It's you can see it kind of molding into something different. And just like these markets, like we think we know what's going to happen because we're in this bubble. Let's be honest, we're in this bubble. We're in a bubble. We're all kind of like in our echo chamber. Sometimes it's good to get away. I look at this, I'm like, okay, it's going to be buy the rumor, sell the news. We're going to go up before this hard fork. It's going to drop, and that'll be it. And that did not happen. So, yeah, here we are.
Yeah. So let's talk about real quick. Let's talk about Ethereum. Obviously, this was the big news. London hard fork went through without any problems, and now Vitalik says, you know what? We're ready. We're ready to move to proof of stake. 99% energy usage cut. And this proves that we can do a big upgrade, without having any problems, right? So how do you guys feel about Ethereum overall now? Now that, look at this, over 15,000 ETH burned within just a few days, and we do have ETH burning now, and they are ready to move to 2.0. What do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, they brought it forward as well. It was supposed to be January launch for 2.0 full blown, and now they're bringing it forward to December. So I like the pace of change. I still maybe I'm a little bit more traditional. I prefer the proof of work type plays. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but the fact that those who stake the most have the most to gain. So I find that a little bit unfair, but I understand the ESG requirements and everything else. So it's very impressive. And again, I'm just overall very, very impressed with Ethereum, and that's why it's 36% of all of my crypto.
Yeah, I think it's going well. I just that whole narrative in the very beginning, and people still thought it would be this way. Like, the fees are going to go down, and then of course we see it, and the fees don't go down. You see it on crypto Twitter. They're like, "What the heck is this?" And then I'm like, "Hey, I told you, that's not the big thing. The big thing is hopefully Ethereum becoming a little bit more deflationary." And it looks like they're burning like crazy, and that's good. Let's see how how things hold up, and if they can scale. And just like what James talked about, let's see how that ETH 2.0 gets staked, and we'll see how much it actually does. I don't stake Ethereum, but I know some people do. So
yeah, I mean, so James brings up a good points, I guess, and that is proof of work versus proof of stake. Some argue proof of work is more secure than proof of stake, and some argue that's not the case at all. James, you just brought out something where you said you prefer proof of work because proof of stake seems to be unfair because the more you stake, the more rewards you gain. But isn't that the same with proof of work? The more miners you have, the more you earn. Isn't that
sort of yes, but different? If you look at least the initial distribution of Ethereum back in the early days, it's not as nothing is as equitably distributed as Bitcoin, and we just have to wait and see. I can understand very easily how it all works, but especially with this heightened regulatory environment, I would be a little more concerned. if I'd rather have if the hammer does fall from a regulatory perspective, you'd much rather be on a proof of work bag than a proof of stake bag. Because that's just my take. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. Anyway, I'm still extremely bullish on Ethereum from every perspective. But
Yeah,
we'll see where it goes.
I can see it. Like, and I'll just tell you, George, like from my perspective as a stake pool operator for Cardano, like when I was reading this bill, I'm like, oh shoot, they might want to be coming at me because I am a stake pool operator, and now I have to keep tabs on everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how's that going to work? Because I don't do that. Cardano doesn't allow me to do that. That's not even going to happen. It's not even remotely going to happen. So what's going to happen here? So I was watching this pretty closely, me and the team at D News, and I was like, well, gentlemen, if this goes through. We'll see what this happens, but I'm just going to throw my hands up, like, hey, mercy, because I don't know what you guys want from me, but whatever it is, it's not going to happen because I can't make it happen. And I'm glad that things are kind of rolling in that right direction, and we'll see how it all works out in Congress. But man, I got to tell you, when that first bill came out, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is going to screw over a lot of people. And then here we are. But again, like we've always said in this channel, it doesn't matter what they talk about and what they want; it's what can actually get passed. So we'll see. We'll see.
And just to wrap up as well, George, you asked a very good question. But for me, one of the reasons I'm so fascinated by this whole space is because of decentralization. And that really came to a head this week when we see how corrupt, politicians are. When you look at the background behind those who are trying to put a bill forth, they have raised millions and millions of dollars from the banks to do exactly this. And when you have pure decentralization, it fixes everything. And the concern I always have with proof of stake, it remains to be seen. But those that are closest to the machine, as you know, have the most voting power. And that goes fly in the face of what I love about crypto, and that is decentralization. So that's kind of like my little bit of indigestion I get in this space.
Yeah, it's funny because speaking of corruption, it was reported that Janet Yellen, who was against the amendment, her biggest backers are like hedge funds and VCs that really does not like crypto. So
biggest backer is Citibank,
right?
$5 million bucks,
and I think I don't know who else, but yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to fight that, but not everyone is against crypto. I mean, I guess this is a good segment into this infrastructure bill and what's going on. Supposedly, Ted Cruz came out. I think I just saw this. He came out and said, this is horrible. The infrastructure bill has nothing to do with crypto. Crypto should be removed altogether so that there's not a whole lot of, rush decisions. And of course, we have a couple amendments. One is basically excluding miners, developers, and validators, and everyone. And there's another one that seems to eliminate most except developers. So how do you guys see this playing out? As far as I know, this has not been finalized or voted through yet.
Well, it's so funny because, again, I'm just very disenchanted with the people that are making the laws for this country. I'm not a political guy, but when they start messing with something that's so important for the future, I start getting involved, at least emotionally. So, I mean, it's the simplest thing to define. And I think Jack Dorsey put it very well. He said, basically, the definition of a broker is anybody that turns fiat to crypto or vice versa. That's it. And once you have that simple definition of 5 words, that's all they need to insert here in this legislation. That's it. You're done. But, the other thing that's kind of interesting to notice how this little space, this little crypto industry is holding up the biggest piece of legislation so far this year. And it shows you how big and strong and influential the crypto industry has become. And also to see people crawling out of the woodwork that you never expected supporting this. So you have some Republicans and some Democrats who are very anti-crypto because they're funded by banks. And you got people who are a little bit independent. And I didn't see people like Ted Cruz coming to the fore in supporting this. So I think it's very, very interesting shakeup. But the definition is simple. It's 5 words. I don't know why they don't just embrace that and define what a broker is in this space and leave the rest away. Instead, they're debating it for 2 days. And the problem is they are all absolutely blissfully ignorant of what this space is about. And these people are making decisions and they're ignorant. And that is bad.
Well,
I have stronger words, but I'm not going to use them here.
Well, I mean, look, these guys are ignorant, but who really writes the bills? Those guys don't sit down. It's all the pages and the aids and everything else. And they write these 6,000, 10,000 word bills and they go, these are the highlights. This is what you got to focus on. Here's your talking points. Go to CNN, go to Fox News and talk about it and then vote this way. That's pretty much what really happens. Then you have to remember something else about Texas. With Ted Cruz, I'm not surprised about why he voted this way, because our Governor Greg Abbott, came out and said, look, I'm going to pass this legislation for blockchain. And what I want to do is I want to push things into the great state of Texas because I want blockchain, mostly Bitcoin mining, to thrive. And that's why you're going to see a lot of these Bitcoin miners coming here and they're setting up infrastructure. And you know why? Because it's good for Texas and it's good for money and it's good for jobs. And so when people talk to me like, why is it so good for Texas? I'm like, look, if we can get more people in here and we can build this infrastructure, well, now we got metal, now we got wood, now we got conduits, electricians, you name the whole thing. Then someone has to actually maintain that. And then, of course, the taxes on the actual land. So everybody wins this whole thing. So you have to understand this is why it is. So with Ted Cruz going, this could be pretty good for job creation. This makes sense to me. And then my last, I want to say one thing that James touched on was people coming out of the woodwork. I find it amazing, and I'm actually very happy this is happening, because you see all these different people that are very tribalistic. It doesn't matter if you're a Bitcoin maxi, a Dogecoin maxi, a tomato coin maxi, whatever it is, else it is. You see so many people in this space come together and we all have one voice. And this is what I've always talked about. Like, it doesn't matter if you're being attacked from all sides. You may not like your brothers and sisters, but if somebody attacks you, you're gonna defend them. And we've all kind of come together and reached out, hopefully in America, to our senators and congressmen and things like that. So thank you, everybody, for doing your part.
Rob, what you said there about Texas is brilliant. I mean, that makes 100% sense. You know, ultimately what's going to happen is you drive all these miners there. It's just going to build infrastructure. It's going to make it better and stronger and provide more jobs. I mean, that's exactly right.
That's what Texas does.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about what you said. I didn't know that you were running a Cardano pool.
George, come on, you gotta stake with me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think about how complicated, or basically it's impossible. Like, every single person that's staking your pool, you would then have to collect KYC information, and you would have to keep track of how much is being earned and distributed, and then you would have to submit that to the IRS, basically. I would
1099 everybody, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, that's ludicrous. That's just
no, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. All right. So besides the infrastructure bill, we do have more regulations or more FUD because of course, Gary Gensler, the SEC chair, which he did an interview and basically said everything in crypto is a security, and I'm going to be the ruler of everything, and watch out. So, what do you guys feel about this?
Everything but maybe two items. He's on the fence about Ethereum, and he thinks Bitcoin is safe.
Yes, he is a big Bitcoin guy. That's for sure. And basically proof of work stuff is big.
And that's what I actually did. I created a model last night and this morning where I tried to stat rank a whole bunch of cryptos across regulatory risk and exposure that they have versus upside. And I can kind of share it if you want at some stage. But it was very interesting what came out of that. Anything that is in any way centralized and in any way raised a bunch of money in ICO, and where the insiders still own a ton, like think of XRP, XML, et cetera, they're going to be the targets first. He already went after a DeFi play earlier this week that I never even heard of. I can't even remember the name.
Yeah, this one.
But that's what's happening. And I wouldn't want to be people. I won't mention his name, MH or his initials, but this, and then the millionaire token guy. I mean, these people though, they need to be locked up. These are the real criminals. And that, I find that comforting that people like Gensler understands the space, and he will protect the innocent, because there might be 25-year-olds out there that put their life savings into one of these tokens and get completely cleared out. It might take them 5 years to recover from that loss, or it might make them leave the space for their entire lives. And the opportunity cost of that is immense. And this is the criminality that I think these guys have to fight. And that's why I've got no problem with regulation as long as they protect the innocent. And that's what the SEC is there to do, protect innocent investors from being ripped off. And he's got a lot of work in his hands, because scams don't only exist in the equity markets, they exist everywhere.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think?
Well, first of all, like, I work hard on my channel. George works extremely hard on his channel, but I got to tell you, I think James works the hardest out of all three of us, because I know like his models and things like that for his videos. Oh my God, this guy works his tail off. James, it's always, I'm like, wow, it's a lot of work. But when I was thinking about this about Gary Gensler, first of all, I like Gary Gensler. I thought he was going to be great. I mean, we've all seen him teaching classes at MIT about blockchain technology, and I thought, okay, this guy's, at least he gets it, right? And then there was the Forbes story that we were talking about, blockchain credit partners, right? And that's the one that they went after because it was synthetic securities, right? Something about the actual stocks that they were doing on their blockchain. They would say, hey, there's going to be some unrealistic type of expectations as far as like APY. And they went after him, and he goes, look, if it's a security, whether it be real or synthetic or whatever else, we're going to go after you. And they made do with that. And I actually reached out to Alex Mascioli. I go, hey, did you hear about this? He goes, yeah, I work with this guy. I used to work with this guy. I used to be on his one of his boards or something with business. And he goes, and I said, well, is this just the cost of doing business? Because they're going to find them millions of dollars. He goes, no, that's it. They're done. He goes, you have to understand. He goes, these businesses like this, they're not an EOS where they can get slapped in the wrist with like, $100 million and move on. I go, that he goes like, they are now gone. And I was like, holy shit.
It's funny. Yeah.
No, go ahead, James.
No, I was going to say, I think Gensler is a Goldman Sachs guy as well from the past. Yeah. So he knows corruption firsthand, with manipulation of markets and everything else. So he was trained in the best school to be able to spot it and identify it. But you're dead right, Rob, as well. And I appreciate the comment too. So,
not that George doesn't do great work. George works his tail off. I know
you all do great work. He does 2 a day. That's
another thing. I can't believe George does 2 a day. I can't do that.
Oh, this is my second today too.
It's tough. It's tough. But here's the thing. I agree with you, James. And on this point, I do think some regulations is good, because as much as we want it to happen, meaning like free market kind of can dictate what's good and what's bad, while that's happening, a lot of people are getting hurt really badly. You mentioned some scam tokens, not too long ago, and yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So I do feel like some regulations is good, especially if the SEC and Gary can go after the scammers, the ones that pretended like they were doing good, like meme coins that got really popular with charity donations and all this stuff. There's just so much out there, and people there's too many newcomers in this space that just doesn't know any better. So like in this case, this story where the SEC shuts down this DeFi money market, if you read the story, it sounds like they were just a Ponzi, but they hit it like it was a DeFi play and they were going to invest in car loans or something like that, but they didn't. They just took new money and used that to pay out the existing people that already got in. So it was basically like a Ponzi. And there's so many projects like this out there. But, the thing is, I think a lot of people are worried that Gary may overstep, because he may declare that, and like what you said, if any project that has a significant amount of tokens or coins locked up to a wallet, or it belongs to a founder, or it was sold in some way, even if it was airdropped or something like that. There's so many, asterisks, right? Not everything is the same. But if you kind of categorize everything into one and say everything's a security, well, that's really, really bad for the entire market, right? So I don't know. I mean, the CFTC came out and said crypto should be regulated as commodities, not as securities. So
I like that.
Yeah. And, we know Bitcoin and Ethereum is already deemed not securities. So basically they're off of Gary's radar, I guess. But for everything else, it's kind of hard because I would love to see bad projects go after and get shut down, but the good projects to be left alone. But I think that's a really, hard line or fine line to draw. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
I'll say one last thing about this is to make myself clear on this one. This isn't a very popular opinion as far as regulation, but I'm in alignment with these two gentlemen here is that I do think there should be a little regulation coming down the pipe. I mean, there should be some type of clarity because if not, first of all the businesses that are like, well, are we talking about a commodity? Are we talking about a security? Or what are we talking about here? If they don't have that clarity, just like, these companies don't, then they're like, well, what is going to go offshore and we'll go someplace else. And that's fine if you want to just say, go ahead, other countries and just, bypass us. That's what it's going to be. But I think a little goes a long way. I know it's not very popular, but I will just say, remember BitConnect?
Yes.
It was a good thing that a couple of different states stepped in at first and said, we're going to shut you down. We're going to give you a cease and desist letter. Texas was one of them. And they got to the bottom of it. And guess what? It was we all know what it was. And if it wasn't, a lot of people have lost a lot more money. So I still think there should be a little bit some, but a little goes a long way.
Hey, there's a project that exists right now that's like 10 times bigger than BitConnect. And no one's looking at it right now. But I'm waiting for that one to get busted. I'm not going to name names. Because there's a lot of supporters of that project. For some reason, they've been brainwashed and they love that project and the leader. But that is a train wreck waiting to happen.
I'll leave it up to you. We'll leave it up to the viewers to decide.
I think they know who I'm talking about. All right. So getting out of all this FUD, all this regulations and uncertainty, what do you guys see this week ahead? Anything in particular that you're looking forward to or anything like that?
This is James's realm.
Yeah, the week ahead it's hard to figure out, like after such a huge explosion upwards, many names going up 30%, 40%, some 50%, and the 25% gains in Ethereum. It's hard to get that again. So a lot of people think that this week coming is going to be like last week. No. So think of it like running up a hill. You got to take a breather every now and again. And that's exactly what I think the crypto market's going to do next week. It's going to consolidate a little bit and wait for the next run. And there could be some good dips. So for those people that are FOMOing in, be patient. And the trend I've seen over the last couple of weeks, Sundays were historically weekdays. We've seen a little bit of weakness now, but Mondays can be kind of a little bit dippy. But the stock market will be opening on Monday, and things like MicroStrategy should pounce because Bitcoin's gone up a lot since the market closed. So that's kind of my little forecast. I just think we'll be consolidating a little bit flat for a while until the next big piece of news comes. Rumor has it that this crypto regulation did pass just now. I think our politicians probably needed to go to bed and they were tired. So they said, just pass this thing anyway. So, but I'm not too sure. I'm trying to find an update on that.
Okay. George, Gotcha. George, what do you got for this week? I'm interested.
I think it's more, I'm in agreement with James. I think we have run up quite a bit. And this infrastructure bill, I think, kind of stalled things out. And I don't think that's a bad thing because we were recovering really, really quickly. 10, 11 straight days, and then we had a little bit of breather, and then we just kept going, right? So I think this recovery is healthy, but at some point, we need to kind of consolidate and take a breather a little bit before we head to 50,000 plus. So this week could be that week. I'm not 100% certain, but I do know that we probably do need to get that rest period for a little bit soon. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't see how this is going to keep going up forever. But I did have a friend get into crypto 3 weeks ago, and he's been texting me, and he's like, "I'm a genius. I knew it the whole time." It's going to go up forever. And I'm like, be careful, Pete, because I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen is that it's either going to go flat or it's going to go down. I don't see this going up to the moon. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just an old horse. You've been in since 2017. I'm like, okay, man, listen, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be on the show tonight. It's called DCA. And that is what you should really be looking into, is dollar cost averaging, because what goes up will eventually come down. And I know that euphoria feeling, we've all felt it. We've all been there. But just remember that if you can just do a little DCA and be a little bit of a patient investor, everything works itself out. It's the ones that like go in heavy and hard, and then all of a sudden it drops down because, corrections and pullbacks, like, what James and George are talking about. And they're like, this is a scam. This sucks. This is we told you. But sometimes you got to go through it.
Yeah.
I see this week as flat or going back down. I just don't see us just keep going up like we did this week. This was a pretty great week. Maybe it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
I am conservative. That's all.
Hey, there's a question kind of off topic, but relates. Super chat. Can I get your 3 opinions on expected pullback of ETH versus BTC in the next bear cycle? Will ETH hold value better? So this is an interesting question that people always ask me. Well, first of all, do you guys believe there's going to be a blow off top at the end of this year? And if so, how much do you think things will pull back by? Like, again, 85% like before or less?
Yeah. I stay awake 24 hours a day thinking about this exact thing. So first of all, let's take kind of Bitcoin as the benchmark, because everything else kind of follows that. I see Bitcoin definitely going to 100,000 this bull cycle, but this bull cycle is elongated, so we might go out till March and mid-March or even further. But also the amount of institutional money and the complete reduction of coins on the exchanges, etc., will lead to one day people start looking and people are FOMOing in to buy, and there's going to be no coins left, and that could drive that blow off top, which would force people to say, "Oh my God, Bitcoin's at $200,000. I'm selling," and that selling pressure could bring things down. But the retracement, we'll never get an 85% retracement again. I think 50% is the new norm. So if Bitcoin goes to 200,000, it'll retrace back to 100,000. If it goes to 100,000, it might retrace back to 50,000. Now, Ethereum typically goes up in the ratio of if say Bitcoin goes up 5x, Ethereum will go up 7x. So it goes up faster, but it also falls a lot harder. It's a lot more volatile. And I don't think there'll be any flippening, not at least for a few years, but I think we'll hit that 10-to-1 ratio during this cycle. So it'll be 10 ETH to 1 Bitcoin. I think that's definitely on the cards. But then the fall will be harder. And also, one of the things that Bitcoin doesn't have that Ethereum does is competition. So you got everybody chomping on the heels of Ethereum. You got Solana and maybe Cardano if they can get their stuff together, and a whole bunch of others, Polkadot, and that could change the game too.
Yeah.
Well, clarify what you just said to 10-to-1. You think Ethereum is going to move 10 times faster than Bitcoin?
No. If what I mean by that is the ratio. So currently we're like at 6.5 or 0.065
to Bitcoin.
ETH, exactly. I call it the 6.5% or whatever it is. But I think we're going to go to 10-to-1. So if, for example, Bitcoin goes to $100,000, Ethereum would be at $10,000.
Gotcha.
That'd be the 10-to-1 ratio.
I can see that.
So you don't see, I'm looking at Ethereum's market cap. It's about a little bit less than 350 billion. And Bitcoin's at 800 billion. So it's less than 2.5, right?
Yep.
So you don't see Ethereum flipping Bitcoin this cycle.
Nope, no way.
Okay.
And then you got people like Raoul Powell saying, "Oh, beyond all shadow of a doubt, Ethereum's going to 20,000." And I said, if that happens, I'm flying everybody to Bora Bora on a free trip. So
you heard it here first, folks.
Exactly. I hope nobody's listening. Edit that out. But literally, I mean, that would be insane. That would absolutely be nuts. Because I was buying Ethereum last year at $200. I've never seen 200 to 20,000.
You should wish for that to happen.
Yeah, but it's just, I don't know. It's kind of unrealistic. So if we do get that 20,000 that Raoul Powell's talking about, there will be a flippening. But I don't see that happening. And if it does, I'm happy either way.
Yeah. It would be fine to be wrong, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I'll eat my crow.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? This is the one time I'm going to be more conservative than James, because he believes, about 100,000, and it's going to retrace back to maybe 50,000. I think, well, I'll be a little bit less conservative. I believe that Bitcoin's going to go to 100, 130,000, and it's going to retrace back to 30. And that's where I see it going, because I take a look at the past. The one thing that does put a monkey in the wrench, or monkey wrench in the whole cog and the whole machine, is that everything is being built on Ethereum right now, and there's so much in DeFi and everything's going through. Will it continue, and will people continue to pay for the high gas fees to do the things they want to do in DeFi as other types of decentralized exchanges come about, like an Ergo, like a Cardano, like a Polkadot, like a blah, blah, blah? Will that keep happening, or will they keep losing market share? I don't know. All I can say is this. I don't like to put my eggs in one basket. I'd like to spread things around, and nobody ever went broke taking profits. So as time goes on, if you're selling your house and your car and your kids and your kidneys, just make sure to take a little bit of profit up there and then go from there. And then that's not to mention the fact that if you want to do like crypto loans and things like that, which I won't even get into here, but just be safe out there, because you never know when the bear market and that crypto winter comes around. And I'm hoping James is right about that elongation to March. That'd be awesome.
You know what's interesting? Like, when you say Ethereum at 20,000, it seems like really out there, right? So while you guys were talking, I brought up a calculator. That's only 6.85 times higher than its current level right now. So let's just say 7x. 7x, if you look at Bitcoin at 43,000, if Bitcoin goes up 4x, which I think a lot of people is anticipating to be at maybe 120, 150,000 by the end of the year, and some are guessing it's even higher. So if Bitcoin could go up 3 to 4x, it's very likely, I would say, Ethereum goes up 7x. I mean, it's very, very likely. And if that's the case, if Bitcoin hits 150,000, I do think Ethereum will probably hit 20,000.
And George, that was very close to the ratio I spoke about earlier. I call it the 5 to 7 ratio. So if Bitcoin goes up 5x, Ethereum will go up 7x. So the quick math there would be, say, 5x for Bitcoin would be 200 grand from where we are today.
Right.
And that would be 21,000 for Ethereum.
Yeah.
Bang on the nose.
George,
and that also ties in right in relation to my 10-to-1 ratio of Bitcoin to Ethereum. Everything in my life, coincidentally, or for some reason, everything turns out to be in line with ratios that you predict. And there's nearly also almost even an arbitrage opportunity when you see things fall out of sync. So when I see the ratio of Bitcoin to ETH being low or high, I trade accordingly to take advantage of that, because I know they're eventually going to come into line, and eventually there will be 10 ETH to every Bitcoin. You heard it here, folks.
You heard it here first. George, what do we got for market cap for Ethereum? I can't see.
You can't see. Market cap is 341 billion.
What's the market cap for Cardano? 44 billion?
45 billion. That's big.
I'm just looking at it like what do you think can happen first? That Cardano can go to 400 billion, or that Ethereum can go to 2 trillion? Is that what I'm looking at?
So Cardano will go up 10x and Ethereum going up 8x. Is that what you're at?
Yeah. Like which one do you think could happen first? 400 billion or 2 trillion? Because it's just one of those things where I look at the numbers, I'm like, that's a lot of money to be pouring in. And it could, because look, I mean, we've got BNY Mellon and State Streets and BlackRock and blah, 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 and all those hedge funds. Can it really push it that far?
It's interesting that you asked that, because just this morning I covered an article that talks about Bitcoin and possibly how it won't grow as fast as previous cycles because of diminishing returns. But in that article, they looked at the big tech stocks like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, and it took them decades to get to 500 million in market cap. Okay. But after that, they got to 1 trillion, 1.5 trillion, 2 trillion in a tremendously fast time. Within years, they quadrupled to over $2 trillion. So what that's telling me is logic dictates that, hey, something smaller like Cardano should move faster than something bigger than Ethereum. But the network effect, you can't discount that. This is the reason why the big tech companies continue to get bigger while the small companies they don't do much, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as long as Ethereum, in my opinion, did not screw up Ethereum 2.0 and they continue to work on scaling, which is their biggest problem, as long as they could continue to execute, then I think they're going to hold that lead. Cardano, I think what really saved Cardano all these years is the fact that Ethereum can't scale. If Ethereum was already fast, then I think Cardano would have a giant mountain to climb. But right now, I think what's really helping them is, they still have time on their hands.
But this is one thing that some people don't understand. People say, oh, gas fees are high and Ethereum is not scaling. It is scaling. It's growing so fast. It's hard for them to keep up with the amount of capacity that's scaling at. So if you look at all the Ethereum metrics, it is exploding from a network perspective. And that's where Cardano is at a huge disadvantage. And that's my thesis, Everything basically in the whole DeFi world, most of it's built on Ethereum. And that's not going to change for a while. So,
yeah, I agree. I think we lost Rob for a little bit here.
Yeah.
So we have like about 15 minutes. So one of the topics I want to talk about, or we discussed, is standouts from the week and our portfolios. Okay. Is there something that really stands out, something that you have, you're keeping an eye on that you think is very interesting?
Right. I think, again, I covered most of the stuff that I think is most interesting is just what happens with this regulation. Looks like it'll probably be passed and then amended after the summer break for these politicians. I'm hoping that with the Bitcoin weakness, I think there might be some more treasury announcements for some new companies, especially when they issue their quarterly reports. They might say, hey, we added Bitcoin as well. I know a lot of hedge funds have been doing that. I know big family offices are buying. And you can see it on the chart. Any type of weakness or dip in Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks, it's been bought up.
Yeah.
Any weakness. So it's like there's algorithms at work just gobbling it all up at cheaper prices. And also, there's kind of a weird institutional FOMO effect. It's like when Bitcoin's languishing at 30,000, nobody's interested. Once it breaks through 40,000, it's like, now we got to get it. So you've seen that yourself for over the years. It's just a funny human mentality. It's like, it's not interesting at 30,000, but at 40,000, it's very interesting. And everybody kind of FOMOs in. So I'm seeing a lot of that happen as well. I'm just waiting for some cool announcements. And Bitcoin's going from strength to strength, because the other three things that I look at that are super interesting for me right now is the new entities kind of at a new high, at least a high for a pretty long period of time. And then you've got that the NUPL, the net unrealized profit and loss, that flash green and a big upward move. And that's the first time we've seen that happen since the middle of October, I think, 2020. And then the Bitcoin exchanges, it's just draining away. And these are three extremely bullish signs. And that means we're still early in this bull market and we're going to go from strength to strength. And I think the smart money, the big money, the family offices, you got pensions, you got Germany, everybody's beginning to realize that.
Every time Bitcoin has a dip, you could see like the net flow from the exchanges just go extremely negative. You see like these large outflows, right? And it just supports what you're saying, that these big boys are buying, and retail investors, they panic over dips, but these big boys, they're just like, thank you, I'll buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, and we're not even seeing the OTC action too. So there's a lot of that happening.
Right. Rob, any standouts from this week, or any particular coin that you're looking at that interests you?
I did a video for James this week. It was the Voyager video, and the Voyager token did pretty good. And I think there was really no big huge standouts. I mean, look, Voyager did good, but hey, newsflash, I'm super biased because I own a lot of Voyager, and actually everything I talk about, I'm biased about, because I own it, so I'll just call a spade and say, yeah, I'm biased. But I mean, it did real well. I think. I mean, gosh, I mean, how many losers were out there? I mean, this week. Let's be honest. And like anything that you pick, like my friend Pete, he's like, I'm a genius. I know what's going on. I can pick them all. I'm like, you're a moron. But he did pick some solid ones. He picked like he did Ethereum. He did Solana. He did what else did he have? Polkadot. So I was like, those are all good ones. They have a great project. They have a great team, and you really can't go wrong with those. And I was happy. So, but there wasn't really anything that I would say is like the big, huge standout. Although I did see that Dogecoin for some reason was pumping again after all these things happen. It seems like that is one of the most sensitive cryptos. Anything that happens with Dogecoin, everybody just blows up like, oh, it's Doge. And I'm just going to tell you like now, I don't care what goes up anymore. I'm just happy that any crypto investor is going up. I'm happy for you guys. Good for you. You held on to it. That's all I got.
Good. And then in terms of, George, you asked about portfolios as well. The big standouts, I did this similar to you, I think on the 22nd of June, I put 50,000 aside, and that's up over 50%. And some of the ones that really blew me away were Aave up 100%, Ethereum 67%, 78% on Uniswap. Despite all the regulation and everything else, that thing has been a freight train. And a lot of other good names, tons of stuff up between like 65 and 100%. It's just been mind-blowing. Really, really good returns there. But I think we need to stress as well for those that have been in the game and they got in at the market top, they might still be a little bit underwater. Those that get in over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they're crushing it. But don't let that go to your head, because as Rob says, nothing goes straight up ever. And it is a very, very volatile series of beasts. So I always say wear your seatbelt and prepare to put on your tap dancing shoes and get in and out of positions if necessary.
Solid.
Yeah. Solid. And George, you must be happy. VeChain has been pumping too. I have a small bag of VeChain.
VeChain.
Yes.
And a few of your other names have been doing well too. What was your standout, George? What was your biggest surprise from your portfolio?
Well, I'm not going to flex as much as you, James. The portfolio I built has done well. It's not up 50%, but this is one I built with my audience, and almost everything is in green. When you buy low and you DCA, you really can't lose.
Yep.
There's been a lot of standouts. Are you guys familiar? I'm just going to bring out this one thing that really stood out. Are you guys familiar with the project AMP at all?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
So, in a nutshell, they're a collateral token currently used in this payment app called Flexa, which some retail investors do use. So you could pay for things using crypto. So AMP I covered many months ago. They have shot up quite a bit. So they're like 2 billion in market cap. They're quite huge, but
top 50 now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at 40 at 2.5 billion, but that's not the one I want to talk about, because I actually covered this new project, which is competitor to AMP, and they're called Alchemy Pay, and they made a big news because they partner with Binance. Binance have Binance Pay, which I didn't know.
Okay.
But Binance Pay now is basically utilizing this new project for the same thing that AMP is doing. And all of a sudden, Coinbase listed them at the same time. So that project, after I talked about it, just like shot up like 1,000,000%. And it still seems to be holding well. But that's what stood out for me for the week, because normally when I see pumps, they usually dump afterwards. It's very hard to see a new project that actually can sustain that pump growth, right? But this is actually due to several big events, so they seem to be doing pretty well. So
I remember looking at Alchemy, because I remember the ACH acronym is amazing considering their space, and it stands for Automated Clearinghouse.
Yeah,
I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But that's one to watch. And these things are few and far between to get that 1 in 100 pump like that. Again, they do exist, but for every one you find, you might lose 20 times. So that's the downside.
Do you guys find, like, when I hear stories about people, like I watch Gary Vee a lot, at least on TikTok, and he always shares stories about his major wins and losses, including like passing on Uber twice, and had he gone in, that would have made him another $50 million or something like that. So do you guys view, for the common people, for regular people that can't get into this exclusive, angel investing or IPOs and stuff like that, do you view crypto the same way? Getting into these small caps is basically investing into these future giants that is just starting. Do you guys view it the same way?
Are you talking about like private sales before it, or getting like small caps where they are now as they're released?
Yeah, just getting small caps as they're released.
I mean, if you think about it, just like what you said, like the earliest that you can get in for the lowest amount of market cap and buy a ton, the better off your chances are. And the thing is like Warren Buffett, he doesn't do these types of things. What he does, he just takes a look at businesses and goes in like 6, 7, 8, very few in the very beginning, and he's branched out. But then you take a look at like a Peter Thiel, what he says is like, look, if it's a technology stock or if it's, just getting started, I'm gonna scatter all my money around, and the one unicorn that I hit is going to offset the 30 duds that I just invested into. Mm-hmm. And that's one of those things that when I look at things, I'm like, that's what I look at. And then the other thing I look at is that on my channel, and I'm sure you guys are the same way, everybody's like, you got to look at this, you got to look at this project and this project and this project. I'm like, look, I've only got so much time in the day. I can look at so many. And if I miss one, guess what? Not surprising. I'm going to miss something. I'm not perfect. But the ones that I am into are the ones that I like the project. I like the team. I think it can change for the better. Mm-hmm. And I'll go with those. And if I miss something, you can't get them all.
Yeah, it's possible. There's 10,000 projects out there, and there's like 1,000 new ones every day. It's impossible to get them all. But if you get that one right, you only have to be right once.
Yeah,
that's what the saying go, right?
Yeah.
James, do you feel the same way, or are you less risky? Are you more like Warren Buffett?
It's a very, very risky game. There's so much out there that's bad. And even just looking at the tokenomics of Alchemy Pay, not even that good. So somebody's going to get hurt maybe. And when you see these little companies come out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're $1 billion shop.
Right.
It's just crazy. Some of them are totally overvalued when you benchmark them against the real world. Right. I was actually looking at kind of the top 20 cryptos and benchmarking them against the top 20 financial services companies. Like literally, you add up the market caps of the top 20 cryptos versus the top 20 financial services companies that have been around for hundreds of years. It's almost the same.
Yeah,
and that's just nuts. So, but yeah, we're going to ride this train as long as it's still good. But it could all blow up at any time. So I would be far more conservative. Again, as I say, I just look at numbers to find that Alchemy Pay, to get that 10x or whatever. I'd much rather get the 25% return on Ethereum, or buy into Ethereum last year cheap and again get the, big returns when you get into 200. That's for me the safer game long term. Not to rifle through the altcoin garbage can, as I call it. It's too risky.
Yeah, and then isn't that why we're kind of like, when people watch our show, when like you right there tonight watching the show, I mean, everybody's happy right now, right? Because everything's up. But when those big dips came and we're looking at 40, 50%, did you watch George? George was like, well, there's a dip and that's what's gonna happen. Did you see James? He's like, well, there's a dip, and you can do your own research and you can buy the dips. I was the same way. And the reason is because, first of all, don't beat yourself up if you didn't hit it, because we've been in this game for a while, 2017. So we've done the due diligence, we bought low, and we can write out these things. If you're just getting in, and God help you, if you just got in like April or May and bought the top, and then everything went down to 3%, you might be a little bit shaky. Now is the time you can actually breathe a little bit. And if you just dollar cost average, you can reduce that losses or that minimal base that you had before. So just kind of remember that as you're going through this journey.
Yeah. Again, I think the future is extremely bright for like the top 20, and then maybe another 5 in the next 80 or 10 in the next 80. And then for the next 100 after that, there might be another 10. So that's it. That's the world. But there isn't room for 50 amazing projects, or no, 100 amazing projects with huge market caps. So there will be a lot of hell to pay when the time comes, when we get to the top of the market. And I think for some of the new people that are in the space, they got a bit of a taste of that. They got a taste of how it's like to have 10 weeks flat and lose. Like, I know so many people that actually just FOMOed into Bitcoin at 64,000. They nailed the top, like literally within $100, and they were devastated. And literally, what we try and do is hold hands. He's like, well, look down the back of the sofa, whatever. This is the time where you can recoup that back. But sitting and waiting for the all-time high to be reached again is not the right approach. You know you have a winner. Your timing was bad. Now you can buy it at 29,000, 30,000, and you can reduce your overall cost basis. And that was the secret. So we'll see. But some of the other stuff is just, there's a lot of trash out there. And there's a lot of, very, very disheartening when I start digging into, the 20 to 50 cryptos, so many of them, the leadership teams and the investors, they've already lined their pockets. And their focus now, everybody listen to this carefully, is to release their tokens to you guys. Pump and pump and pump and dump. And that's what they're going to do over the next 3-6 months. And you guys are going to be left holding the bag. So just be careful, everybody. Take your money off the table when you can, when you make some. Otherwise,
James, you just painted such a bleak picture for everyone. Tell everyone, hey, don't invest. This is
you have to just look. You have to add up. So we're nearly back at 2 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
A lot of that is fake. And you look at the concentrations of some of these little altcoins that go to $1 billion market cap overnight, and you start digging into, is there $1 billion of value there? And you can find no, very quickly there's not. And you can compare. I mean, there were huge airlines that have thousands of planes that have less market cap than some of these cryptos that came out of nowhere a few months ago. That for me is mind-boggling. And these companies, some of them will take over the world and modify and change the world, but many of them will just fizzle away. And I think Willy Woo nailed it perfectly. He calls it the degenerative syndrome of many of these cryptos. It's like a half-life in nuclear radiation. They will wither away and die over 4 years. And that's you just, everybody needs to back the right horses. Then you can make a lot of money. But when you start speculating on silly things, you watch Doge go from 65, 70 cents down to 19 cents. And I know a lot of people that bought Doge at 75 cents or whatever, and they're hurting right now.
Yeah, thanks for all the TikTok stars that got Doge going. Hey,
but keep in mind though, even though there is a lot of projects that will die, but some don't, like Doge, and it's only gotten stronger over time.
Yeah, that's true because of the social value, and that's why Doge is a play. I was tempted to snag a little bit when it went under 20 cents, and I was like, no, I can't do that. That'd be a bad thing to show other people to do.
Hey man, Doge community is strong. I will tell you, they're as strong, maybe if not stronger than they are on the same level as the XRP army. We'll say that those guys are like staunch. Maybe not the XRP army, but they're pretty strong. And for a project that just started as a meme, I mean, look where we're at now. And then
last question, because we're coming up to an hour for both of you guys. If you had to buy XRP or Doge, which one would you choose?
Oh my God, Doge, easy. Yeah.
Rob?
You know what? Gosh, if there's a gun in my head and someone gave me $10,000 and said, do Doge or do XRP today, right today, only because of this stupid SEC lawsuit, would I probably go in the direction of Doge. But if I had any wind or inkling of where this is going to be a settlement, I would put into XRP. And you know why? Because there are so many people that believe in XRP so hard. Any type of settlement that goes about, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in XRP is going to be like the to get around the walled gardens and do all those things. it doesn't matter, because when the SEC case gets dropped or they pay the fine and it goes on the exchanges, it will go heavy and hard, and that's an easy, that's an easy 2, 3, 4x right there.
What's your answer?
I look at it,
Doge then?
Yeah.
So my answer right now, as it is today, is Doge. Because I mean, can I even buy? I don't know if I can even buy XRP anywhere these days.
You know what? I think it's 3 for 3. I would choose Doge. I'd choose Doge over XRP too. So it's kind of
I look at it mathematically. Is what is the probability of both of them doubling? And Doge is not on my regulation warning radar, whereas XRP is the worst on my whole radar. Wow. So from that perspective, I stray away from risk, and I realize the social value that Doge has and the brand value that it has within the youth today. And I know that Elon Musk could tweet something on a Sunday night after smoking something strange, and it could double. And so Doge can go from 20 to 40 cents much quicker than XRP can go from 80 cents to $1.60.
Hey, remember XRP shot to 380 or 390 in 2017. So it could happen.
Yeah, but XRP also has a ton of competitors right now. Yeah. And that lawsuit, Gensler is going for them. He has something on them. That's not going to go away, Rob. I bet my bottom dollar he is going to take them down.
I think he's gonna go and push and push and push. I think there's going to be a settlement, and there's going to be a big fine.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 51 billion tokens in escrow, that'll probably have to disappear as well, because that's criminal.
I think they're going to settle, but I think Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson may be removed as officers, because they're not just suing Ripple; they're suing the two Brad and Chris for selling so many tokens and so forth. So, but I do think they're going to settle, but be interesting. Be very interesting.
Cost of doing business.
All right. That's it for this show, guys. So
awesome.
Second episode DCA. I think it went well. For those of you guys watching, make sure you check out Rob and James, their channels. Their URLs is listed in the description. So until next week, same time, Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for the chat, James and Rob.
Good night, Rob.
Until next week.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Adios, Jim.